happening? My name is Jaret Brantley, ex-professional wakeboarder, action sports enthusiast, and the sports director at Camp Royal in Glen Jean, West Virginia, the world's first faith-based action sports camp. I actually call it a faith-filled action sports camp because it's not based on the faith. The truth is, faith is the reason we're here. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story of how I came to faith in Jesus and the relationship that I have with him today. My story starts probably like a lot of people. Grew up in church, man. And I would fall asleep literally every week in church. I just didn't ever really feel like I fit in at church. I felt like there was something different inside of me. And a big part of it revolving around action sports and my desire to constantly push myself, to constantly like look at fear in the face and say, I'm bigger than you, and I can overcome and conquer anything that you can throw my way. And so church was never really my home in the early years. I never really found a home there. It was a place that I went out of repetition and routine, but it never really felt like a place that I belonged to. Fast forward, pro wakeboard career, travel all over the place, live in Orlando, Florida for a while. I was the guy that never drank, never did any drugs in my whole life, but I would go to the bar every night and drive everybody home, and supposedly that made me better than everybody else. Truth is, I was just an enabler, and I was enabling people to keep doing the things that didn't honor God, we'll put it that way. I moved back from Florida because I got really, really sick, and I don't believe that God causes sickness, but I believe he really allowed and used that as a way for me to come back to California and kind of realign my life and figure out what was important. And so in that process, started right back in with church, gave it another go because I'm not a quitter. And so went back to church, started over again, and got invited to, I actually got a random text message from one of the pastors that said, hey, we need a junior high youth pastor, are you in? And this was on my first week back to church. And I said, I'm in. And he said, well, I was kind of actually just joking, but awesome, yeah, show up this week and we'll see how it goes. And so when I got to church, I soon found the people that I fit in with, and they were the ones that would go to youth group every week, and they would sit outside and ride their skateboards, and they never would go inside. And so me being from an action sports background, I was like, hey man, let me skate with you. Let me see what that looks like. Like, just give me your board, I want to skate. And, you know, hesitant and tentative at first, kind of like, no man, I don't know who you are. I'm like, come on man, give me your board. And so I'd go around, I'd do some kick flips, because I don't really have many more tricks than that on a skateboard than a kick flip. And soon that turns into, hey, let me show you how to do a kick flip. And then I'm going inside the youth group, and I'm like, are you coming or are you not? And that's kind of the catalyst that allowed them to come in. And I realized, like, in that moment that my relationship to Jesus and my career in action sports that I had was never about how good I could be, how many titles I could win, how much money I could make, how many sponsors I could have, but it was always going to be about the favor that I would have to speak into the next generation, to speak into the lives of the youth. And so I still use that today as my form of ministry. And what that looks like for me is not a traditional ministry of being a pastor in a church or going overseas to be a missionary. Sure, those things are absolutely amazing, they're great, and they help build the kingdom as well. But oftentimes what it looks like for me is being in a place like this, a bike park, or showing up at a trailhead, or at a lake or at a cable park, and just genuinely loving people the way that Jesus did. In the streets, one-on-one conversations, praying for the sick, seeing them get healed and touched and transformed by the love of Jesus. Check out these guys shredding. Anyways, sorry, I get distracted by shredding. It's been 4 years ago now, and before I left for Africa, God said, hey, when you come back from Africa, you're gonna have a lot of testimonies of the things that you've seen me do in people's lives and the things that you've witnessed me doing in your own life. What do you plan to do with those stories? And I said, give them away? And he said, exactly. I want you to travel the United States, and I want you to release testimony everywhere you go. Because in Revelation 19:10, it says, for the testimonies of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy, which means if God's done it in your life, he wants to do it again in somebody else's life. And that's just a testament to how powerful testimony is. So we called it the Testimony Tour. We bought a $1,000 van and planned to travel 3 months around the United States, 4,000 miles. We made it about an hour, and the van blew up. And so we went, and using that as further confirmation that God was going to do amazing things and the devil was going to be scared and he was trying to steal from this journey, we went and bought a $1,600 van, swapped all the beds over and everything we'd built in the van, and we took off. And during those 3 months, we saw God do the most amazing things, the absolute most incredible things. We saw over 250 people healed in their physical body. We saw many, many salvations. Opportunities opened when we were following the Holy Spirit to speak in churches, to minister in different ministry schools throughout the country. And so we felt on the trip that God said we would go 3 times. And so we're actually in the process right now of raising money for a new van for the second journey, another testament of the Testimony Tour, to see God show up in bold ways throughout the U.S. So I just encourage you, you don't have to be in Africa, you don't have to be in a third world country to be a missionary. You can be a missionary right here in the United States. And so that's what we plan to do. We plan to go and love the one right in front of us, whether it's the homeless man or the rich person. We want to love them right where they're at and introduce them to the love of Jesus and see their lives changed and transformed forever. The goal is to grow the kingdom, make the kingdom bigger and hell smaller. Bless every one of you guys that's watching this, and step out in faith. God is real and he loves you.